What is your most expensive mistake? Hey people of Reddit, ever had a moment where you looked back and went, oops, that was expensive? Well, today, we're diving into that. What's your most costly oopsie? Share your stories with us as we laugh, learn, and maybe cringe a bit together. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more crazy tales and life lessons. Number 15. Freshman year of college, I thought my final exam was at 11:30. It was at 9:30. The exam was 40% of my grade, so I failed. I lost my scholarship and had to pay to retake the class. Reply. Back when I was in college, I was on one of the student-run university buses next to a student that I recognized from one of my classes who thought final exams were that day. It was actually the day before. The poor girl was beyond herself when she found out from her friends. At the same time, though, I wondered how she could mix the dates up because all finals were already finished the day before. Number 14. Taking out a $5,000 loan to help my mom with her very past due bills. Long story short, she ends up missing bills again and not learning her lesson. Borrowing for someone who has bad credit is a huge trap. I mean, the reason they have bad credit is usually because they have a history of poor financial decisions. And banks absolutely love it when a family member comes and underwrites their risk-adjusted loss. I'm very much of the opinion that you should never ever lend to family or friends. It should always be a gift, with no expectation of seeing it again. If you can't afford that gift, and if you have to borrow money, you shouldn't give it. You can tell them it's a loan if you like, it can help the pride of those in need. But just mentally write it off and treat it the same as if you'd not see it again, and decide accordingly. Real loans have processes of credit records, bank enforcement, and eventually court proceedings to manage the risk to acceptable levels. Most people can get real loans, banks like lending money, because it's profitable for them. If they can't for some reason, well, there's probably a reason for that. Number 13. My father died in 2007 and left me and my sister $115,000 each. I'd used it to buy a new house. I was 25 at the time. Didn't know shit about the process to buy a home. So needless to say, I bought something I couldn't afford. Then the market crashed in 2008. I'd lost the house and my inheritance. I was more upset about blowing my father's savings than losing the house. Lesson learned. Number 12. When I was 7, I went into an AAA office with my dad because I wanted to see what it was like inside. I brought my Dorocoin purse with me, and inside I had $5 in ones. I didn't understand what they were saying during the meeting, so I just folded my allowance over and over to pass the time. After what seemed like hours, I got bored and decided to drop them on the floor and tell my dad I found them lying there. I guess I expected him to be like, "Wow, that's amazing. You're so great for finding that, sweetie," or whatever. I don't know, I was 7. But when I point them out and tell him that I found $5 on the carpet, he scolds me for trying to steal and makes me hand the money to the broker along with an apology. That stupid bitch knew for damn sure that money wasn't hers. The world felt gray the entire car ride home and continued for the following weeks after that. I lost my dignity, my soul, my happiness, my innocence in $5. I think about it every night and it keeps me awake in a cool sweat. Number 11. Rushed into buying a car. Bought a salvaged vehicle that looked like it was in great shape. It drove fine, and it was exactly what I needed at the time. About a month in, some frame damage was discovered that made it hard to steer, and there were no braking airbags. I tried to turn around and sell it once I found out, but I couldn't in good conscience sell an unsafe vehicle to anyone. So I paid $7,000 to install new airbags and have a few other things done. Once the car was safe, I felt like I could stick with it a little longer. Then the transmission started leaking. I had grown attached to the car by this time, so I figured I'd at least get an estimate on fixing the leak, even if it meant dropping the transmission. Mechanic gave me a call moments after I dropped it off to tell me he was worried that if he dropped the transmission he wouldn't be able to put my car back together, because the repairs on the car were so bad the transmission was essentially holding the whole front end together. Sold it for scrap and basically lost $15,000 total on that terrible purchase. Number 10. Left my laptop on the front counter of my work while going into another room. We are in a major homeless area. Came back 15 minutes later and mine and the receptionist's laptops were stolen. Fairly decent laptop, more than the actual equipment, lost 10 years of work scripts and plays, databases, artwork, and hundreds upon hundreds of lesson plans. I now back up to the cloud all the time. Number 9. Back in June, I went to Africa for charity work and got sick drinking from a private well. I've been in hospitals for 4 months now, and because most of that time my health insurance didn't cover me outside of the country, I owe the government $170,000 for covering my hospital stays in the Congo and Kenya. I can't leave the United States until I pay it off, but I'm already disabled from a car wreck a decade ago. I don't know what I'm going to do. Number 8. I started working at 12 and started an Edward Jones account to grow the money. I only worked 8 to 9 hours a week, so it wasn't a ton of money, but the account grew to about $20,000 by the time I was 16. Also, when you're a kid, you have your parent be custodian of the account, meaning at the end of the day, you have to go through them to access the money. Anyway, when I was 16, my dad said he couldn't pay the rent, and we were going to be homeless. I asked him how much he needed, and he said a little under $1,000. So not wanting to be homeless, him and I came to an agreement that I would loan him $1,000 from the account. Another key detail is, when the custodian wants to remove funds from the account, they still need to get the signature of the account holder, me. After school, my dad brings this huge packet from Edward Jones and says, "Hey, you need to sign this. Thanks again, son. You're helping out the family big time." Here's where I f***ed up big time. Trusting my own dad, I didn't read through the paperwork. I just signed it and went to my room. 2 years later, my dad has ran off abruptly to Texas with his girlfriend. Left me stranded. It was okay though. I moved back in with mom, and I'm starting college. I visit my Edward Jones agent to strategize how to pull money from the account for school, but to still have it show growth. He pulls up my account and the majority of the account is gone. Confused, I ask what happened, and he goes, "Yeah, about 2 years ago, it looks like your dad pulled X amount out of the account." My dad took almost everything under the guise he was only taking $1,000. If I would have read that paperwork, I would have seen that, but I trusted him and didn't read it. Big mistake, but a lesson I'm glad I learned young. Never sign without reading everything first, and always open and read all your mail. I never spoke to him again, and he died last spring. It wasn't about the money I lost, it was about the principle of stealing from your own child and leaving him in the dust. He also did some other incredibly fucked up shit I won't get into. It does bum me out we never reconciled, because we did have a lot of good times together too. But the fact is, it was on him to apologize and make things right, not me, and he never really tried to do so. Number 7. When I started working in an operating theater, I knelt down under a surgical microscope, promptly forgot my surroundings, and then got up quickly and ungracefully. My back hit one of the handles, causing $10,000 worth of damage to a $500,000 piece of equipment. I was 3 weeks into my new job. Number 6. When I was 21, my mother passed away very unexpectedly. Heart attack. I was the one to find her, and it had clearly been several hours. Not a pretty sight. Also was my best friend, so it sucked. Anyway, I was her beneficiary and got $20,000 all at once deposited right into my bank account. In 1 year, I spent all of it on shopping trips and drugs. I'm almost 26 now and regret it every single day. Not sure if this counts, but thought I'd share. Rimpy Mom, love you. Sorry I f***ed up. Number 5. I'll take care of this one, since it occurred less than 24 hours ago. Drinking with friends after a wedding. My girlfriend and I are staying with my best friend in his little office area as we're out of town. I get really drunk from taking too many shots and pounding beers. I lay down, struggle to not throw up, and end up passing out. I wake up by my girlfriend's scream, look to see me holding my dick and pissing all over the corner of his wall, which holds his gaming PC, so there it is. I hate my life, and the shame I hold has no bounds. He was surprisingly okay about it and incredibly nice. I'm not sure how he hasn't me. Number 4. Losing my USB that had 50 Bitcoin on it. It was a prize for getting second in a Guitar Hero contest hosted by the university I was attending. Bro. $3 million. Number 3. Agreeing to not having the septic tank inspected before closing on our home. It was pumped recently, so it must be fine, right? Turns out it was actually in bad shape and needed to be fully replaced. Over $20,000. Reply. Plumber here. Always have the system inspected and perform a hydraulic load test on a drain field before you buy. If it needs fixed, many townships will make you install a sand mound systems costing upwards of $30,000, $50,000. Number 2. Got promoted to being a warehouse manager many years ago. Didn't receive any training really because the person I was replacing was promoted to another position and they were trying to learn how to do that job while they were supposed to be teaching how to do my new job. At some point, we started to run low on a few key products that were more in demand, so I asked the guy who was supposed to be training me how much I should have in stock, then based my order on that. Well, they didn't tell me there was an 8 to 9 week lead time on this, so now everything that was on order was essentially already spoken for. I'd have to place another order to maintain my stock for the warehouse. This happened multiple times and never knew what the sales guys were selling / promising other customers as well as just taking items from my stock instead of waiting for their dedicated orders. It got messy. There wasn't really any systems in place. Well, it got to the point where all of these back orders had started coming in and we were heading into a slow point in the season. Boss eventually starts asking why all these items aren't put away in stock, etc. / why don't I have any room, and that leads to him looking more closely at what was ordered and what is still on order. Turns out I had ordered about $1.4 million over what I should have, didn't get fired, got demoted out of the warehouse though and put back to installations. Turns out it was a bit of a blessing in disguise for the boss as the supplier increased their price 15% the year after and another 10% the year after that. They never did let me lid that down though. TLDR, I temporarily cost a company $1.4 million over ordering stock because I wasn't trained in how to do my job properly. Number 1. Not doing more research into hiring a roofing contractor. Paid $13,000 for the shittiest job ever. Flashing messed up, rotten sheathing not replaced, nails blown clear through the shingles, reusing shingles when they started running low, water running behind my siding, no flashing around my chimney. It was a shit show. They didn't even clean up, they left the old roof and nails strewn across my backyard at the lawn. I pushed and next thing I know, he's disappeared and I have water running in my house. My insurance guy refused to help and I had to hire an honest roofer and redo the entire job for another $13,000. The second guy cut me a break since he knew I was in a bad spot. Last I heard, that guy was banned from doing work for a few insurance companies, but he changes his name and moves to another city or state often. He would take the money, hire random migrant crews, but not give them enough for material, shingles, caulk, flashing, and demand the jobs all be done in one day. Thanks for tuning in and sharing in the laughter and lessons. If you've got a story to share or want more content like this, drop a comment below. Don't forget to hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay awesome, stay wise, and keep learning from those expensive mistakes. See you soon.